The stars had never felt so close. From the tiny cockpit of his damaged spacecraft, Captain Elias Wren stared at the alien planet below. Its surface shimmered with colors he had never seen before. Deep blues that seemed to pulse, golden plains that stretched farther than his eyes could reach, and swirling clouds that glowed faintly under the alien sun. He had crash-landed here by accident, but even in danger, he could not deny the beauty of this world. Elias's ship had taken a serious hit during his escape from a rogue asteroid field. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and then everything went dark before he plunged through the atmosphere. Now, with the wreckage smoldering behind him, Elias dragged himself across the rocky ground, each step a struggle. His leg throbbed painfully from the impact, and a jagged gash on his shoulder reminded him that survival here would not be easy. In the distance, he saw movement, figures that did not resemble any human. They were tall, elegant, and their skin shimmered slightly in the sunlight, reflecting hues of silver and violet. Elias froze. His first thought was fear. His second was awe. He had read about the legends of the alien queen of this sector, a ruler of unparalleled intelligence and authority. And now, standing on her planet, he was about to meet her people, perhaps even the queen herself. Before he could decide whether to hide or approach, one of the figures broke away from the group and walked toward him. The alien moved with grace, almost like water flowing over stones, and Elias could not help but notice the calm confidence in every step. As she came closer, he realized she was far taller than any human, with eyes like liquid topaz and an aura that seemed to command attention without a word. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice melodic but firm, carrying over the wind. Elias struggled to speak, his voice hoarse. I'm human, Captain Elias Wren. I didn't mean to land here. My ship, it crashed." He held his hands up, hoping to show he posed no threat. The alien queen tilted her head slightly, observing him. Her gaze fell on the blood seeping through his torn jacket. "Your wound. It is severe. How can you still stand?" Her tone was more tense than curious now. Elias blinked, surprised that she seemed almost worried. "I don't know," he admitted. "I guess. Humans are tougher than we look." He forced a weak smile. The queen's lips pressed together. She motioned to the other aliens, and two approached cautiously, their hands glowing with faint energy. Elias flinched when they moved closer, fearing some form of attack. But instead of striking, they hovered near his wound, examining it with instruments he could not understand. The readings on their devices made his head spin, but one thing was clear. They were concerned, not hostile. "This can't be real," the queen whispered, almost to herself. She stepped closer, her eyes narrowing on his injury. "Your body, it should not endure this. It should have collapsed already." Elias tried to shrug, though the movement sent a sharp pain through his shoulder. "Guess I'm full of surprises," he muttered, attempting humor to ease the tension. The queen studied him silently for a long moment, then finally spoke, her tone regaining authority. "Take him to the healing chambers. Now." Elias followed, stumbling at first, but the aliens supported him carefully. As they walked through the city, he could not help but stare at the buildings. They were magnificent, unlike anything he had ever seen. Towers spiraled into the sky like living structures, shimmering surfaces reflecting the light in patterns that seemed almost alive. The streets were quiet, yet bustling with alien citizens moving gracefully along their paths. There was a harmony here, a sense of order and beauty that humans rarely achieved. Inside the healing chambers, the queen motioned for him to sit. Advanced medical equipment surrounded him, humming softly. He lay down cautiously, watching as the aliens worked in silence, their hands precise and careful. The pain in his shoulder eased slightly as the energy from their devices seemed to knit the wound together. He gasped as the bleeding stopped, leaving only a faint mark. You healed me?" he asked, amazed. The queen shook her head slowly. "We did not heal you. Your body healed itself, but our technology accelerated the process. Humans, your species is extraordinary. I have never seen such resilience." Elias could not hide his surprise. Humans were always considered fragile by many alien civilizations he had studied. Yet here he was, alive and standing after a crash that should have killed him. He felt a spark of pride despite the pain, though he did not voice it. The queen's attention returned to him fully. "Tell me, human, how did you survive the crash? How did your body endure injuries that would have felled any other species?" Elias smiled weakly. We adapt. We fight. We don't give up. That's what makes us human. For the first time, the Queen's expression softened. The tension in her shoulders eased slightly, though her eyes still carried the weight of disbelief.
Perhaps
I underestimated your species. Before Elias could respond, a sudden alarm echoed through the chamber. The Queen's advisors hurried in, their voices urgent. Your Majesty, a disturbance is approaching the city outskirts. It could be hostile. The Queen's posture stiffened instantly. Elias's heart raced, expecting a battle, but instead, she motioned him to rise. Stay close. You are injured, but your presence may be needed. Elias nodded, gripping the support rails, ready for anything. As they moved through the corridors, he could feel the Queen's unease. This was not the composed ruler of legend. This was a leader confronted with something she could not fully understand. Him, a human. Fragile by her standards, yet surviving against impossible odds. When they reached the observation deck, the view left him breathless. A fleet of unknown vessels hovered near the city, scanning for weaknesses. Their movements were aggressive, calculated, and far beyond anything he had ever faced. The Queen's hand hovered over a control panel. We must defend our people, she said, her voice steady but her eyes betraying the tension inside. She glanced at Elias. And you, human, your survival may yet inspire more than fear in me. It may inspire hope. Elias nodded, understanding the weight of her words. Despite the wound, the crash, and the fear, he realized he had a role to play. Humans may have been underestimated across the stars, but here, in the presence of one of the most powerful alien leaders in the galaxy, he would prove that human courage and resilience could not be denied. For the first time in hours, he felt something he hadn't in a long time, hope. And the Queen, standing beside him, tensed and alert as she watched the incoming threat, could not hide her astonishment at the human who refused to fall. The stars outside glimmered, a silent witness to the meeting of two species that had never expected to cross paths like this. And yet here they were, human and Queen, both on the edge of a moment that could change the galaxy forever. Elias took a deep breath, gripping his side as pain flared briefly, then subsided. This can't be real, he murmured quietly, half to himself. But the Queen, tense beside him, gave no answer. She only watched, her eyes wide with disbelief, as the human before her proved that his species might just be more extraordinary than she had ever imagined. Elias stood on the observation deck, the alien Queen beside him, both gazing at the approaching fleet. The massive ships were unlike anything he had ever seen. Sleek, dark, and armed with weapons that glowed faintly, they circled the city like predators. His heart raced, but his mind worked faster. Humans had survived impossible odds before, and this was no different. The Queen's hand rested on the control panel, sending silent commands to her fleet. Her calm exterior masked the tension in her muscles, the tightness in her jaw. She had faced many threats in her reign, but this human, injured yet alert beside her, was something entirely new. Human, she said, her voice low but firm. You will remain here for now. This is not a battle for you. Yet, Elias nodded, though his curiosity burned. I may be injured, but I can help, he said. Maybe my perspective could make a difference. The Queen turned to look at him fully. Her amber eyes narrowed, searching his face. Your species. It endures things it should not. Your body is remarkable, but you are fragile compared to the threats we face. Elias smiled faintly, ignoring the sharp pain in his shoulder. Fragile? You mean you've never met humans who refuse to break, even when everything seems impossible? The Queen paused. No one had spoken to her like this in centuries. Humans were a curiosity, a minor species rarely considered in the larger galactic order. Yet here was one defiant, clever, and alive despite wounds that should have killed him. She did not answer immediately. Instead, she gestured for him to follow her to the medical chamber again. Inside, the air shimmered with alien energy. Elias's wound had begun to throb painfully as the adrenaline from the crash wore off. The medics, tall and elegant as before, moved efficiently, their hands glowing with healing energy. But even as they worked, Elias felt the Queen's eyes on him. This wound, she said softly, almost to herself. It should have killed you within hours. Yet here you are standing. Elias looked at her. Humans survive when others think we can't. That's what makes us human. The Queen studied him. Her voice was quieter now, almost reverent. You endure not because of technology, not because of alien methods, but because of your body, your mind, your spirit. It is Extraordinary. Elias could not help but smile, feeling a small spark of pride. We're stubborn too, he admitted. Maybe that's the secret. As the medics worked, a sudden alert echoed through the chamber. The Queen's advisors rushed in, panic flashing across their elegant faces. Your Majesty, the fleet is approaching faster than anticipated. They are attacking the city outskirts now. The Queen's body stiffened instantly. Elias felt a surge of adrenaline. He had faced danger before, but nothing like this. He wanted to act, to do something useful. Human, the Queen said sharply. You stay here. Elias shook his head. I can help. I may be wounded, but I can do something. Please let me. The Queen hesitated. Few humans had ever dared speak to her like this. Most would have cowered, begging for mercy. But Elias, he was different. His determination, even in pain, made her uneasy. Perhaps humans were more capable than she had imagined. Very well, she said finally. You may come, but stay close to me. One misstep and... She did not finish the sentence, but Elias understood the weight of it. One wrong move here and he would die. They moved quickly through the corridors toward the city's defensive command center. As they walked, Elias could see the city outside through massive windows. Alien ships were already landing on the outskirts, their weapons firing destructive beams that tore through buildings. The city's defense systems activated, energy shields flaring to life, but the attackers were relentless. Your technology is impressive, Elias said, scanning the scene. But maybe there's a way to use what I know. The Queen glanced at him. Explain. He took a deep breath, ignoring the pain in his leg. Human warfare isn't just about strength or weapons. It's about tactics, psychology, and unpredictability. You can anticipate patterns, but sometimes you need to break them in ways the enemy won't expect. That's where humans excel. Her eyes flickered with interest. Go on. The ships, they move in formations. They rely on coordination. If we can disrupt that even briefly, it could give your forces an advantage. Maybe a small strike in an unexpected place could make them hesitate. The Queen studied him, then nodded slowly. Interesting, proceed, but you take no unnecessary risks. Can your body handle this? Elias flexed his shoulder and leg, wincing slightly. I'll manage. I have to. They reached the command center where holographic maps displayed the battlefield. Elias pointed at the formations of enemy ships. Here, he said, is their weak point. They have a communication relay at the center. If you target that, it will disrupt their coordination, at least for a short time. The Queen's advisors looked shocked. That's bold. It's nearly impossible to reach without heavy losses. Elias smiled faintly. Sometimes the impossible is the only choice that works. The Queen studied him silently, her mind racing. There was something about this human's confidence, even in the face of mortal danger, that unsettled her. Perhaps her assumptions about humanity had been too rigid. Perhaps humans were capable of feats even her most advanced soldiers could not achieve. Very well, she said finally. Prepare a strike team. You will guide them. Elias nodded, his body tense with pain but ready for action. He felt alive in a way he hadn't felt since the crash. Every injury, every scar, every wound reminded him that humans survived where others would fall. And now, in the heart of an alien city under siege, he had a chance to prove it. The strike team assembled quickly, a mix of elite alien soldiers and advanced drones. Elias moved among them, explaining his plan with clear, precise instructions. The aliens listened carefully, some skeptical, some intrigued. His confidence seemed to ripple through them, inspiring a rare sense of hope. As they moved toward the central relay, enemy ships fired relentlessly, tearing through defenses. Elias ducked instinctively as a beam struck nearby, his body flinching from the pain. Yet he pressed on, guiding the strike team with tactical precision. Now, he shouted as they reached the relay. Using a combination of alien technology and his own intuition, Elias directed the strike that would disable the enemy's coordination. A massive pulse of energy erupted, sending the attackers into chaos. Ships veered off course, some colliding, others retreating. The Queen watched in awe. Elias, wounded and human, had accomplished something her most elite soldiers might have failed to achieve. Her tension gave way to something new: respect. Humans. Perhaps they were not as weak as she had thought. Perhaps in ways she could not yet understand. They were extraordinary. As the dust settled, Elias leaned against a console, his body trembling from exhaustion. The Queen approached, her eyes softening. You are remarkable, she said quietly. Even wounded, even human. You made a difference today. Elias smiled faintly. That's what humans do. We fight, we survive. We adapt. That's why we're here, even when the odds are against us. For a moment, the Queen said nothing, just observed him. Then she nodded slowly. Perhaps your kind deserves more respect than we have ever given. Perhaps I've been wrong about humans all along. Elias felt a surge of pride, not arrogance, but quiet satisfaction. He had survived a crash, faced an alien city, and helped defend it. Humans may have been underestimated across the galaxy, but here, in the presence of one of the most powerful rulers in existence, he had proven their value. And as the Queen stood beside him, her tension slowly easing, Elias realized that this was only the beginning. There would be more battles, more challenges, more moments where humans would have to show their true strength. But if he could survive this, then perhaps anything was possible. The city outside began to recover. Alien forces repaired damage. Citizens peered from their homes, murmuring at the sight of the human who had guided the defense. And the Queen, once tense and wary, now watched him with a mixture of disbelief and admiration. Elias closed his eyes briefly, feeling the pain in his body, the lingering ache from the crash and the wounds. Yet he stood tall. Humans endured. Humans adapted. Humans survived. And the Queen, perhaps she had finally realized that some truths about humanity could not be ignored. As the sun set over the alien city, casting long shadows across the golden plains, Elias and the Queen stood together watching the horizon. A bond of respect had begun, born from a wound that should have killed him, a human spirit that refused to break, and a Queen who had never expected such resilience. For Elias, the journey was far from over. But one thing was certain: humanity had made its mark, and the universe would never see them the same way again. The city was quiet again, but the calm was only temporary. Outside the towering, shimmering walls, the remnants of the enemy fleet had been scattered, yet the threat was far from gone. Elias had survived the crash, guided the strike team, and proven humans could endure what aliens considered impossible. But survival alone was not enough. To gain true respect from the Queen and to help her people, he needed to contribute in ways beyond brute courage. The Queen summoned him to her private chambers. She had never invited a human into this space before, yet here he was, entering with cautious curiosity. The room was vast, circular, and lined with glowing panels that displayed data he could not fully comprehend. The Queen sat behind a desk, her posture formal, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of curiosity and tension. "You have done well," she said, her voice measured. "Even my elite soldiers were impressed by your insight. But survival is one thing. Leadership is another. Tell me, human, how does your species face challenges that seem impossible?" Elias hesitated, thinking carefully. He had spent years studying alien cultures, yet nothing had prepared him for this. We look for patterns," he said finally. "We observe, we adapt, we rely on creativity as much as strength. Sometimes the solution is not force, but ingenuity. That's how humans survive wars, disasters, even situations like this." The Queen's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Interesting. And you believe this? Ingenuity can help us now?" Elias nodded. "I do. The enemy will return. And if we don't adapt, we may not be so lucky next time." She leaned forward. "Show me." He moved to a holographic table displaying the city and its surrounding landscape. The enemy had left behind sensors and patrols, scanning for weak points. Elias traced his fingers across the map. "Here," he said, pointing to a ridge overlooking the northern plains. "Their patrols are predictable. They rely on repetition. We can use that. If we send small units disguised as local wildlife, we can lure them into traps and gain control of the terrain without heavy losses." The Queen studied the plan silently. "And you think this will work?" "It's not perfect," Elias admitted, "but it gives us an advantage. Humans excel at finding ways to turn disadvantages into strengths." She considered him for a long moment, then nodded. "Very well. We will try your plan. But human, if this fails, the cost will be high." Elias flinched slightly, recalling the pain in his body from the crash and previous skirmish. Yet he stood firm. "I understand. But sometimes risk is necessary to survive." The Queen's advisors moved quickly to implement the plan. Alien soldiers and drones were dispatched to set traps, guided by Elias's instructions. He stayed close to the Queen, who watched him work with fascination. She had always valued logic, discipline, and strategy above all else, yet this human, wounded, exhausted, and seemingly fragile, was shaping strategy in a way that challenged centuries of tradition. As the plan unfolded, Elias noticed subtle things the aliens overlooked. Small environmental factors, natural patterns, even the psychology of the enemy. Each suggestion he made, the Queen implemented, sometimes hesitantly, sometimes with quick compliance. By the time night fell over the plains, the traps were in place and a sense of anticipation hung heavy in the air. Elias's shoulder throbbed, and his leg ached with every movement, but he ignored it. Pain was a human constant. Adaptation was the response. He had survived worse and had learned to rely on ingenuity over brute force. This time was no different. The first signs of the enemy fleet returning appeared on the horizon. Silhouettes of ships moved through the dark sky, scanning the terrain. Elias's heart raced, but his mind was clear. He gave signals to the units hiding among the ridges, directing them precisely as the enemy advanced. The enemy fell into the traps almost immediately. Alien soldiers, following Elias's lead, struck with precision, cutting off reinforcements and securing critical points. The Queen's eyes widened as she witnessed a display of cunning she had not expected from any human or any non-Queen advisor. This human, she whispered under her breath, almost to herself. He is extraordinary. Elias didn't have time to notice her muttered words. The battle was intense but controlled thanks to his foresight. Energy pulses, weapon strikes, and drones moved in perfect synchrony. Guided by the human mind they had reluctantly trusted, yet it was not just his tactical mind that impressed. When a small unit was trapped by enemy fire, Elias instinctively led a rescue effort. Despite his injuries, he navigated dangerous terrain, guiding soldiers out of harm's way. The Queen observed, her tension giving way to a mixture of awe and disbelief. Humans could survive, adapt, and act with courage even when wounded, even when the odds were stacked against them. By the end of the night, the enemy fleet had been pushed back, their patrols destroyed, and the immediate threat neutralized. The city was safe for now. But the Queen's perspective had shifted. She turned to Elias, her eyes filled with something she had never expressed to outsiders before: genuine respect. "You have done more than survive," she said. "You have taught me that humans are capable of things I did not believe possible. Your resilience, your mind, your courage, it is rare, even among the greatest of my people." Elias smiled faintly, leaning against the command console to support himself. "Humans survive because we must," he said simply. "When the odds are impossible, we find a way. That's our strength." The Queen studied him, noting every movement, every flicker of determination. Her previous assumptions about humans, fragile, unremarkable, short-lived, crumbled before her eyes. This one human had not only survived, he had inspired hope, strategized victory, and earned respect that few beings in her empire ever commanded. "Perhaps your species is underestimated," she admitted finally. "Perhaps we have been blind." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of her words. It was rare for a Queen to admit a mistake, rarer still for her to acknowledge the strength of an outsider. But he knew that actions spoke louder than words. Humanity would not be ignored, not here, not anywhere in the galaxy. As dawn approached, the Queen summoned her council. Elias was invited to stand beside her, guiding the discussions with insight only a human could provide. The council listened, some skeptical, some curious, but all captivated by the strategy and foresight of this small, resilient species. During the council session, one of her senior advisors asked, "Your Majesty, why do you allow a human to guide our decisions? Can he truly comprehend our ways?" The Queen's gaze fell on Elias. "He is not just a human," she said calmly. "He is remarkable. His mind, his courage, his resilience. These are qualities even my best advisors could envy. Do not underestimate him." Elias felt a strange warmth, a mix of pride and humility. He had never sought recognition, yet he understood the significance. Humans had long been underestimated across the stars, but here in the heart of an alien empire, he was proving that the species could inspire trust, respect, and even admiration among beings far more advanced than themselves. As the council adjourned, the Queen lingered. She approached Elias, her expression unreadable, yet her voice carried an edge of curiosity. "Tell me, human, your wound, your survival. How do you endure so much and still function? It defies reason. Elias rubbed the scar on his shoulder, a faint smile on his lips. Pain is temporary. Humans endure because we have to. We adapt. We think. We act. That's what makes us alive. The Queen regarded him silently, her mind racing. She had always valued logic, order, and control. Yet this human, injured, exhausted, but unyielding, had demonstrated qualities that logic alone could not explain. Resilience, courage, creativity. Humanity embodied them all. You may have changed the way I see your species, she admitted finally. Perhaps humanity is more valuable than I allowed myself to believe. Elias felt a quiet satisfaction. Recognition was not his goal, but he understood the weight of her words. Humans had long been overlooked, dismissed, or underestimated. Here, in the Queen's presence, that perception was beginning to shift. As the first light of dawn illuminated the city, Elias and the Queen stood together on the observation deck. Outside, alien citizens emerged cautiously, surveying the aftermath of the night's battle. The Queen's gaze lingered on him, tense yet thoughtful. This human had sparked something new within her. Elias's body ached. His wounds reminded him of the cost of survival, yet his spirit was unbroken. Humanity endured. Humanity adapted. Humanity survived. And now even the Queen of one of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations had begun to see it too. For the first time, Elias realized that his journey was no longer about survival alone. It was about proving that humans, small and fragile by alien standards, could shape events, influence decisions, and inspire respect in ways that transcended species. And as the Queen watched him, a faint tension in her posture gave way to something else, an acknowledgement that humans were not merely survivors. They were innovators, strategists, and warriors of the mind and spirit. Elias took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of the city, the hum of alien technology, and the promise of what lay ahead. Humanity had ignited a spark here, and he knew that this spark could grow into a flame that would illuminate the galaxy in ways even the Queen had never imagined. The battle was won, but the real journey, the true test of human ingenuity, courage, and resilience was only beginning. The morning sun spread its golden light over the alien city, glinting off the towering crystalline spires. Despite the previous night's victory, tension still hung in the air. The enemy fleet had been pushed back, but Elias knew they would return, and they would come stronger. His body still ached from the crash and the battles that followed, yet there was no time to rest. The Queen summoned Elias to the central command chamber. Her usually composed demeanor was laced with urgency. "Human," she said, her amber eyes sharp. "The enemy is regrouping. Their numbers are larger, and their strategies more aggressive. This is no longer a small skirmish. If we fail, the city, my people, and this planet may fall." Elias took a deep breath, feeling the familiar pulse of determination in his chest. "Then we'll fight smarter, not just harder," he replied. "And we'll make sure your people see that humans are more than capable of surviving the impossible." The Queen studied him. "Your body is still injured. Are you certain you can stand this?" Elias flexed his shoulder with a wince but nodded. "I have to. Humans endure. That's what we do." A hush fell over the room as the Council of Alien Advisors listened. Many of them had doubts, skeptical of relying on a human, no matter how clever. But Elias had earned their attention and cautious respect through the last battle. Now he would need to prove himself further. He moved to the holographic table, pointing at the enemy's projected positions. "They'll hit here first," he said, tracing the path of incoming vessels. "They're counting on a frontal assault. But we can't just meet them head-on. We need to force them into areas we control, where we can use traps, terrain, and ambushes to our advantage." The Queen nodded slowly. "Explain your plan." Elias laid out a strategy that combined alien technology with human intuition. He identified choke points, weak energy nodes in the enemy ships, and natural terrain that could be used to limit their movements. He coordinated a multi-layered defense. The Queen's fleet would draw the enemy in, while ground units, guided by Elias, struck from unexpected angles. "Your plan relies on speed, adaptability, and cunning," the Queen noted, "not on sheer force." "Exactly," Elias said. "We use what we have, make every move count, and force the enemy to make mistakes. Then we exploit them." Preparations began immediately. Alien soldiers moved under Elias's guidance, deploying defensive shields, energy traps, and small strike units. Drones hovered in strategic locations, waiting for the human-designed commands that would give them an edge. Elias moved among them, giving instructions and observing carefully. "Captain," one of the Queen's advisors said, "this is highly unconventional." "Are you sure it will work?" Elias smiled faintly, despite the pain from his wounds. "Humans thrive on unconventional, trust me. It will work if we stay focused and adaptable." As the enemy fleet approached, the city's energy shields flared to life. Bright arcs of light shimmered across the walls as the attackers fired relentlessly. But Elias's strategy took effect immediately. The enemy ships were drawn into the first layer of traps, where concealed energy pulses temporarily disabled their weapon systems. Choke points funneled the remaining ships into narrow zones, where drones and ground units struck with precision. Despite his injuries, Elias led a small strike team into one of the critical zones. They moved quickly, using cover and timing to disable enemy nodes. His leg throbbed and his shoulder ached sharply, but he pressed on, driven by determination. Every time a soldier hesitated, he encouraged them, showing that courage could outweigh fear. The Queen watched from the observation deck, her face tense, but her eyes reflecting growing admiration. She had always led with logic, discipline, and experience. But this human, injured, persistent, and unyielding, was proving that courage and ingenuity could rival centuries of military strategy. As the battle intensified, an enemy ship breached the city's outer defenses. Energy beams scorched the ground and civilians fled in panic. Elias saw a group trapped behind rubble, unable to escape. Without hesitation, he sprinted toward them, ignoring the pain and the danger. Using a combination of agility and quick thinking, he guided the civilians to safety, his human instinct to protect others driving every step. The Queen's tension eased slightly as she watched him. "Such courage, such resilience," she murmured. "Humans are more than I imagined." But the battle was far from over. The enemy fleet regrouped and launched a massive assault, targeting the Queen's palace directly. The city shook with energy blasts and alarms blared. The council panicked, but Elias remained calm. "Focus," he instructed. "Stick to the plan. Adapt as we go. We can still turn this around." He coordinated multiple strike teams, directing them with precision. Using the human ability to think creatively under pressure, he suggested tactics that alien advisors would never have considered. Feints, distractions, and decoy signals that lured enemy ships into traps. Every move disrupted their coordination and forced mistakes. During the chaos, an enemy commander targeted Elias directly, sending a squad to eliminate him. Despite his injuries, Elias did not falter. He anticipated their movements, using the environment and improvised tactics to disable their assault. One by one, the attackers were neutralized, their strategy unraveling under the human's leadership. The Queen, witnessing his actions, could hardly contain her astonishment. "Even wounded, even human. He can lead in ways my people never expected," she whispered. "This is extraordinary." As the sun began to rise higher, the tide of the battle shifted. The enemy fleet faltered under the combined pressure of alien technology and human ingenuity. Choke points held, traps worked, and the enemy commander realized too late that the humans' unconventional strategies were dismantling their plans. Elias, exhausted and bleeding from his wounds, directed the final strike that would force the enemy into retreat. Using a combination of energy pulses and rapid maneuvers, he turned their own formations against them. Within hours, the alien fleet was forced to withdraw, leaving the city largely intact. The city erupted in cheers, not just for the victory, but for the human who had guided them through the crisis. Citizens peered from their homes, whispering stories of the brave outsider who had turned the battle in their favor. The Queen approached Elias as he leaned against a support column, his body trembling with fatigue. You have done what no one expected," she said softly. "Even my most skilled generals would not have achieved this. Your courage, your ingenuity, your resilience, it is unmatched." Elias gave a weak smile. "I did what I had to do. Humans survive. We fight, we adapt. That's who we are." The Queen's eyes softened. "And now I see it for myself. Humans are more than I imagined. You have shown me strength, intelligence, and courage that even my empire has never witnessed before." For the first time, Elias felt the weight of admiration from one of the most powerful rulers in the galaxy. Yet he remained humble. Recognition was not his goal. Survival and helping others was. Still, Knowing that humans had earned respect in the eyes of the Queen brought a quiet satisfaction. As the city recovered, repairs began immediately. Alien soldiers and drones worked alongside human-inspired strategies to rebuild defenses and strengthen the city's infrastructure. The Queen's advisors, once skeptical, now listened carefully to Elias's recommendations, realizing that human perspective offered insights they had never considered. Elias, despite the throbbing pain in his shoulder and leg, moved among the rebuilding teams, offering guidance and encouragement. He showed that even in injury, humans could contribute, inspire, and lead. The Queen observed, her tension finally easing completely. She had seen the human spirit firsthand. Not fragile, not weak, but adaptable, clever, and unyielding. By nightfall, the city stood stronger than before. Citizens celebrated quietly, aware that the human who had survived against impossible odds had become a symbol of hope. The Queen approached Elias one final time that day, her voice calm but filled with admiration. "Your actions today will be remembered," she said. "Not as a human, but as a warrior, a strategist, and a symbol of what your species is capable of." Elias nodded, exhausted but proud. "Humans endure," he said simply, "and we inspire others to endure as well." The Queen studied him, her expression thoughtful. "I underestimated your kind, but no longer. Humanity is remarkable, and you, human, have proven it." As they stood together overlooking the city and the recovering landscape, Elias realized that this moment marked a turning point. Humans had survived, humans had adapted, and humans had inspired awe and respect. The battle had been won not by sheer force alone, but by ingenuity, courage, and an unbreakable spirit, the essence of humanity. The alien city had survived the assault, its defenses repaired and its citizens cautious but hopeful. Yet Elias knew the peace was fragile. The enemy fleet had retreated, but it would return, and next time it would be stronger. His body ached from his injuries, every step reminding him of the battles fought, yet his spirit burned brighter than ever. Humans endured because they had to. Humans adapted because they could. Humans survived because they refused to surrender. And now the galaxy was beginning to notice. The Queen summoned him to her private council hall. The room was grand, circular, lined with holographic displays and intricate alien designs. But Elias's attention was drawn to her, the Queen who had once tensed at the sight of his wound, who had doubted the capability of his species, and who now regarded him with something closer to admiration than he had ever expected. "You have changed much since your arrival," she said, her voice calm but carrying the weight of her authority. "Your actions, your insight, your courage, they have shifted how I see humans, perhaps even how the galaxy will see us all." Elias nodded, wincing slightly as he adjusted his stance. "I only did what I had to do. Humans survive. We fight, we think, we adapt. That's what makes us human." The Queen walked around him, her amber eyes studying him carefully. "Your survival, your endurance, it is extraordinary. But what you have done goes beyond personal courage. You have inspired others, your people, my advisors, even me. That is a rare gift." Elias felt a mixture of pride and humility. He had survived a crash, guided a city's defense, and turned impossible odds into victory. Yet he had also learned something about humanity's role in the universe, that survival alone was not enough. Humans could influence, inspire, and lead, even among beings far more advanced. Before he could respond, the chamber doors opened, and a delegation of alien leaders entered. They had heard of the human who had turned the tide of battle, and now they had come to see him with their own eyes. There was skepticism in their expressions, but also curiosity. The Queen stepped forward. "This human, Elias Wren, has proven what we have long doubted. His species possesses resilience, intelligence, and courage that rival our own. Observe and learn." Elias stood straight despite the pain in his shoulder and leg. He could feel the weight of their attention, but he did not falter. Humans thrived under pressure. Humans adapted under scrutiny. And humans endured no matter the odds. One of the alien leaders stepped forward, voice skeptical but respectful. "You human, how did you achieve what even our most skilled generals could not? Your body is wounded, yet your mind guided us to victory." Elias met the alien's gaze calmly. "We survive because we must. We fight because giving up is never an option. And we adapt because that is what allows us to turn impossible situations into success. That is what humans do." Murmurs spread among the delegation. They had always regarded humans as fragile, limited, insignificant. Yet here was a single human, wounded, exhausted yet unyielding, who had not only survived but led, inspired, and changed outcomes. Slowly, the skepticism gave way to admiration. The Queen nodded, her expression firm. Let this be a lesson. Do not underestimate humanity. Their strength is not always obvious, but it is profound. They endure, adapt, and overcome, and now Elias Wren has proven it beyond doubt. Elias felt a warmth in his chest. Recognition was not the goal, yet he understood its importance. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. Perhaps now things would begin to change. Days passed, and the city began to heal fully. Citizens moved freely, rebuilding homes and repairing defenses. Soldiers trained with renewed energy, inspired by the human who had fought alongside them. Drones and technology, guided by strategies Elias had suggested, were integrated into the city's operations, ensuring that future attacks would be less threatening. The Queen approached Elias one evening as he watched the sunset over the plains. The golden light reflected off the crystalline towers, casting long shadows across the city. Her face was thoughtful, her posture more relaxed than he had ever seen. You know, she said quietly, when I first saw your wound, I thought your species fragile. I doubted your resilience, but you have changed my view entirely. You have sparked something within me, something I cannot ignore. Elias smiled faintly, wincing at the pain in his shoulder. I only survived. That's all any human can do. But I'm glad I made a difference. The Queen regarded him in silence for a moment, then nodded. More than you realize. Your survival, your ingenuity, your courage. It has shifted how we see not just humans, but the galaxy. They will remember you. They will remember your kind. Elias looked out over the city, feeling a sense of quiet triumph. He had survived impossible odds, led a defense that saved countless lives, and inspired respect from a queen who had once doubted him. But he knew this was not the end. Humans would face greater challenges, stranger worlds, and enemies more relentless than this one. Yet he also knew something else. Humanity had the strength, the mind, and the courage to endure and overcome anything. That night, as the city slept, Elias walked through the streets, observing the citizens he had helped protect. Children played cautiously in the shadows, their laughter echoing softly. Soldiers repaired equipment, their movements precise yet relaxed, and the Queen's advisors moved with a newfound respect, consulting him on strategies and listening to his advice. Humans had left a mark, not just as survivors, but as innovators, leaders, and symbols of hope. Elias realized that this was the essence of what he had been fighting for, proof that humanity's worth could not be measured merely by strength or technology, but by courage, ingenuity, and resilience. In the days that followed, the Queen formally recognized Elias, and by extension humanity, as an ally worthy of respect and collaboration. Diplomatic channels were opened, treaties signed, and the city began preparing for a future where humans and aliens could work together. The Queen herself oversaw these developments, often consulting Elias directly, valuing his perspective in ways few had ever considered. During a formal ceremony, the Queen addressed the citizens and the delegation of alien leaders. This human, Elias Wren, has shown us what humanity is truly capable of. Their courage, resilience, and ingenuity have saved our city and inspired our people. Let this be remembered: humans endure, adapt, and overcome. They are a species to be respected and celebrated. Elias stood beside her, humbly accepting the recognition. He had never sought glory, yet he understood its importance. Humans had been underestimated for too long, and now their potential was finally acknowledged. As the ceremony concluded, the Queen pulled Elias aside. "You have proven much, human," she said, her voice soft but steady. "But your story does not end here. The galaxy is vast, filled with challenges your species may face. I trust that you and your kind will continue to show what humans are capable of." Elias nodded, feeling a sense of purpose beyond survival. "We will. Humans endure and we never give up. That's how we survive. And that's how we inspire others to survive too." The Queen regarded him for a long moment, then smiled faintly, a rare gesture that conveyed both admiration and trust. "Perhaps humanity has the potential to change more than we imagined, and it begins with individuals like you." Elias looked out over the city once more, the lights of the towers reflecting in his eyes. He thought of the crash, the pain, the battles, and the moments of doubt. Yet here he was, wounded, exhausted, but unbroken. Humans had survived, and in doing so, they had left a legacy of courage, ingenuity, and resilience that would be remembered across the stars. As the alien city settled into a peaceful night, Elias felt a quiet certainty. Humanity's spark had ignited here in the heart of an alien empire, and it would continue to burn brightly. The Queen had seen it, her people had seen it, and the galaxy would come to see it too. Elias closed his eyes briefly, feeling the ache in his body and the weight of his journey. Humans had faced the impossible and survived. They had adapted, overcome, and inspired. And now, thanks to one wounded human who refused to surrender, the universe would never underestimate them again. The stars above shimmered, silent witnesses to the resilience of a species that had always fought, endured, and survived. And as Elias looked to the horizon, he knew that humanity's legacy had only just begun. The Queen, standing beside him, no longer tensed at his presence. Instead, she regarded him with respect, trust, and something else, a recognition that humans, small and seemingly fragile, could achieve greatness in ways the galaxy had never imagined. Elias took a deep breath. He had survived, he had fought, he had inspired, and humanity's legacy, once overlooked, now shone brightly in the heart of the stars.